I wanted to tell you about the story about this young man. He was approached by this young boy, and the boy came running to him and he said, "Is this your car?" And the young man says, "Yes, this is my car." And he's like, "Wow, this is such a cool car." And he says, "Thank you, my boy." And he said, "Yo, what did you have to do to get this car?" And he said, "Well, I work really hard for the car." It's like, wow, and so much excitement, but also a little bit confusion at the same time, you know? And he says to him, but what do you do? He says, "Well, I work as a VM project manager, and it's quite an important role at my business." And he said, but how old are you? He's like, "I'm 29." And he's like, wow, there was really this much confusion in his face. He couldn't understand. This man is driving a fancy car, and he's only 29. Like, what what did he do to get this car? So people always ask, how did he do it? And how did he become so successful in such a short time, you know? But what if I told you that that same young man worked as a casual, just as a casual, in a retail store? And how it all started was he saw this man coming down this escalator and he couldn't stop looking at this man. And he walks into the store and he looks at this man with such inspiration. The man is wearing a flashy jacket, his nice shirt, skinny jeans, nice shoes, smelling fresh as ever. Probably had a nice car. And all you could think about is he wants to be that man. And he wants to have what that man has. And that's all you could think about. He was inspired by just looking at this man. What if I told you that he only worked in a retail store and it took him 10 years to accomplish all of that? He acquired exactly the same job that this man had in 10 years with no degree, no diploma to his name. He had exactly the same job and he held it at a different company. His story started when he was unemployed. He was 20 years old, and his mother kept on nagging him that he needed to get a job. He couldn't sleep in all his life, and what he did was he took 20 copies of his CV. And there was no money to obviously go and study. Um, he couldn't go to varsity, and his parents, just made ends meet to get them by. But he took 20 copies of his CV with the little experience that he had, and he went to the mall and just went to every retail store. He went to Identity, he went to Guess, Diesel, whatever. And, so many retail stores declined him. One retail store actually called him up and said, "Listen, you got an interview." At the same time, he had another interview. And 2 weeks later, he got a job at the Levi Strauss. But in that same time, another store called him, which was Identity, and Identity said, "Hey, you actually got the job. Sorry, I actually just got the job at Levi's, but thanks anyways." And he was quite excited. He started there, and he had these opportunities. A whole lot of rejections. There was some pluses as well, but he got the job after so many, chances of trying and just pushing to the next store and the next store and the next store. And he worked at the Levi store, and he was there for about 5 years. And within that space in time, and he had learned so much. He met so much people. He actually met one of his mentors, which was Gary Cork, a very important person in this boy's life. And he he just started, working hard and pushing hard, and people could see what he was doing in the store, and he was just going the extra mile, working hard, and Gary could see that what he was doing, it was just better than what everybody else was doing. And with that, going the extra mile, he actually got called up to start traveling with the Levi store and going places where people that was in the business, that was working longer than him, he was going places like Joburg, and he was going to Durban, and he was going to Bloemfontein. And people couldn't understand why did they choose this young man, But he was working so hard. They couldn't understand that he what was it about this young man that made him so special? And with that, he just told himself, you know what, I'm working hard, and he had to push on. And next thing he knew, he got another job, got an interview, and doubled his salary. And he was working at Woolworths as a visual department manager. He worked there for 3 years, and he just kept on doing what he was told to do, just pushing along. And he worked there for 3 years, got his experience, and got a call from a company in Brits, and which also doubled his salary. You know, went for the interview, took the time out to fly over there, came back, got the interview, doubled his salary, and worked there. He was in Brits for about a year, and he decided he just didn't like it anymore, and you know, it just wasn't for him. He came back jobless. 3 months later, he started applying, doing the same thing that he did when he started out, and he got a job, the same sort of salary that he had when he left when he left Pretoria and Brits, and he was working as a VM project manager. Worked hard. A year later, another company, engineering company, found him, and he was like, this is amazing, you know. Salary was even much better, benefits were much better, and he was an account executive for an engineering company called Romano Signs, and he worked there for 3 months later, and then another company called him better, even better salary, and the benefits were even much better. And 10 years later, he was in exactly the same position as when he saw that man coming down the escalator, wearing the snazzy suit, smelling fresh, and he was holding the same position as Carlos. And again, people asked him the same question. How did he do it? And he said to me that there were three things. But before he told me these three things, the most important thing that you need to understand is you need to understand the difference between right and wrong. Because people don't know that. People actually think the right thing or the wrong thing is right and the right thing is wrong. It all started where he was a young boy, and his parents would give him small duties like uh, take out the trash or make up your bed or clean the house, and with that, it just occurred to him that it was a good thing that he was doing, and that's where he discovered that what was good and what was bad, and what was right and what was wrong, because it's right to listen to your parents. And he just had this certain positivity in his life every time he acted on that. And he was listening, and he would think about what they were saying, and he knew that it was the right thing, and he reacted. And the way he reacted, it was he did the deed. And with that same habit, over time, it just the compound of interest over time just made his life better and better and better. It was really a funny story, because he's actually the middle child, and the two siblings always said that he was the favorite because he listened to mommy and daddy all the time, and it was like he was always trying to be the favorite or trying to be so for me it was he was always just doing the right thing, and he was just listening, he was just thinking about it, and he was just reacting on what they said, and it just made his life so much better in the end. But the three things he told me is that you listen, you think about it, and then you react. He always mentioned to me is that when he started doing it, he created these qualities in life. And the qualities are good qualities that everybody wants, when you're growing up as a child and when you're going into adult phase. And he says, once he started doing that, he created a sense of awareness, and he started thinking positively, and his life just changed. And with those three things, you create self-discipline, because you're doing it, that's a discipline. Somebody tells you to do something, you do it, and you think better, you show persistence, there's no procrastination, you show a sign of respect, There's time management that you respect, and there's a sense of responsibility and accountability at the same time. And most of all, the one thing that I always told him is that I love the fact that he was so humble at everything that he did. And that's the one thing that everybody wants nowadays, is that humility, when you're going into a place. And he always had this sense of humbleness. And that's the reason why he says it is so important. When you're doing these things, you just create these qualities in life that everybody wants. So you're in school and you're the student, and the teacher says you need to do exercise 1 to 5. And it's written on the board, or she tells you. And the student that's sitting over there, he doesn't listen at all because he chooses not to listen. He's talking to his friend next to him, or he's writing in his book, and he chooses not to listen. What are the consequences that's going to happen to you? Firstly, you didn't listen. You're not going to think about that, what's going to happen afterwards. There's going to be no reaction. The consequences of that is that you're going to get a slap in the wrist when you come back to school. You're also going to get detention, and also you're not going to gain any knowledge. The positive side of that is that you listen, you do exercise 1 to 5. You think about it when you go home, you say, I need to do it. And you react, you do exercise 1 to 5, whether it's right or wrong, but you still did it. You come back to school and you be like, the teacher says, okay, you did the homework. You gaining knowledge, whether it's right or wrong, because whether it's right or wrong, you learn from your mistakes. And you're obviously going to get, there's going to be no detention. So what side of the story do you want to live on? And when you think about things that are coming negative into your life, so somebody tells you, you and your friend, you walk into a shop and he says, hey man, can we take this chocolate, and we don't pay for it, we walk out. You need to decide for yourself whether that is right or wrong. You need to actually stand, listen to what he's saying. Think about what are the consequences that's going to happen. I'm probably going to get thrown into jail. I'm probably going to get the bad criminal record thereafter. I'm never going to get a job because I've got a criminal record to my name. What are the consequences that's going to happen in the long term? Knowing that you're going to get caught, first of all, knowing that it's the wrong thing to do, and I'm probably not going to get a job or a good job at the end of the day because I have a criminal record. So you need to think about that, because a lot of the time people forget where the situations they are in. So parents tell us, yeah, those are wrong friends for you, but do we listen? Do we actually take the time out to listen? We just keep on going. The wrong thing keeps on happening, but we don't actually realize the people around us are the wrong things for us. When you find yourself in a bad environment, and he was lucky enough to have parents, but he's met people along his life when they were in bad situation. There's choices that you can make. And he always tells people that you have a choice in life. Just like those 3 things, there's a choice that you need to make. When you're in a bad situation, you need to decipher for yourself whether it's right or wrong where I'm in. If you continue in that life struggle, and you're always in a bad situation, and you don't know the difference between right and wrong, you're always going to be in that situation. But when you attract the good and you actually tell yourself, you know what, I'm in a bad situation right now, I need to get myself out of here. There are so many ways you can ask for help. It's not that difficult to ask for help. There are so many ways, there's so many avenues in life that you can actually just grasp and succeed. I mean, for goodness sake, this guy took 10 years of his life. He became so successful. He had his salary was looking great car, and he took 10 years with no degree, no diploma. How did he do it? That's the question that everybody asks. So taking a bad situation out and making it good will only attract the good. He always says that everybody has a mentor. And whether you don't have parents or guardians, or everybody is your mentor. People who are giving you sound advice, those are your mentors. Those are the people that you're always going to want to surround yourself. But do we actually realize what good advice is and what bad advice is? And you might have somebody in the neighborhood that's giving you good advice, but do you actually recognize that they're giving you good advice? Do you actually realize, okay, is that good advice, or is that bad advice, or whatever? Sometimes we shrug off the good advice and we don't listen. We just we actually ignore the good advice in our life, and we don't listen. We don't think about what that person's actually telling. We just shrug it off. We don't even listen. We walk past. But the person gives you good advice all the time, and you might be ignoring it completely. And that person could change your life in so many ways. Like he always says, advice is not for free. But when somebody's giving it to you for free, you should listen. You should actually pay attention. Acknowledge when somebody's giving you advice. So always make sure that you think about before you actually, ignore something. When he was working at the Levi's store, I mentioned that he met this guy, Gary Cork, who was very important. And I think he was sort of a silent mentor, like he mentioned. When he was working there for 5 years, the most important thing that he took from that is that you cannot stay in one place alone, because you need to be loyal to yourself. And the way he says is that the only loyalty that you need to have is for your business, and that is your body. And he had this cool thing about your body is your business, and you need to treat your body as a business and how you run it. How do you run your business, your body? Every business needs maintenance. You need to pump money into there to keep it profitable. You need to keep it healthy. You need to make sure that everybody in your business is healthy. And that is exactly what you do for yourself. You need to be loyal to this. And he says that when he was working there, that's what he took from his mentor. That's the most important thing that he took from Gary. Is that yes, my body is my business. And he needed to feed himself, because Levi's was never going to give him enough money to feed himself or feed his kids or feed his wife in a couple of years with the salary that it was on. He needed to step it up year after year after year. So he was loyal to this business. He was always loyal to this business, and that's what he took from that kind of mentoring. And the biggest challenge for most people is that it's so quick to take the easy way out. Because when you're told something to do, you look at the easier way out, but you actually know that you're not supposed to. You can read about people so many times in your life, but have they actually done it? There's proof in people's doings. So Jeff Olson always says it's easy to do, but it's easier not to do. And that's how people, look at life. Because they look at a piece of paper that's on the floor. It's easy to pick up that piece of paper, but it's easier just to walk past and just forget about it. But is it the right or the wrong thing? Once you change that mind, and once you start looking at the person in the mirror and say, okay, I need to take some time out, that's the first step to curing your failure. Failure is inevitable, and it's always going to happen. You should expect failure. But you should always think about failure is the antidote to our failure. And if you get knocked down so many times, you need to actually look at yourself and say, I need to get back up. But if you're not going to do that, there's something happening. You need to make a change. If failure is going to happen over and over, and you get knocked down over and over, then there's something wrong with you. You need to take time and self-reflect. Yes, it does guarantee success. My name is Kurt Marshall, and this is my story.
And I will try to fix you.